Hello everyone, welcome to the end of day one of Pro Tour Honolulu Dark Ascension 2012. Rich Hagon, Brian David-Marshall with you. Now, we usually have a lot to get through in these end of day wraps because apart from anything else, we've been watching for 8 hours and they haven't.
Right. Maybe they could tell us what's been happening.
Yeah, indeed, because I haven't seen nearly as much Magic. I think I sat through 1 to 5 and 8, and you had one, 6, 7, 8.
And then a lot of deck techs in the meanwhile.
Mm-hmm. So we had 5 rounds of standard, new standard with Dark Ascension, and then 3 rounds of draft beginning with Dark Ascension, and then 2 packs of Innistrad. Standings after round 8.
So 164 players advance to day 2.
So that's with 15 points or better.
15 points or better, ranging from Samuele Estratti in first place, Pro Tour Philadelphia champion,
Yep.
all the way down to Chris Davis in
Who is Chris
164th place.
Wow. Fair play to him with a tiebreak of 39.06. He won't care. He's back for 3 more rounds of draft.
There are a lot of big name players in that range of 1 to 164.
Okay, so you've already mentioned number 1, Samuele Estratti.
Sure.
8-0.
So he's a Pro Tour winner.
Yep.
A Pro Tour champion.
And we'll see him in the Players' Championship. For the 16 players, he's already got his slot locked up.
So other people who've won a Pro Tour before,
okay,
who are in day 2, hopefully in a position to win another Pro Tour. Samuele Estratti, Shota Yasuoka, Paulo Vitor Dama de Rosa, Jelger Wiegersma, Brian Kibler, John Finkel, Ben Stark, and Carlos Ramao.
Not many then.
No, not many.
That's an awesome collection, isn't it?
Really? That's 8 players who have, they know what they need to do to close out a Pro Tour.
Yes.
By the way, there's a handful of those players who have also won Player of the Year, like John Finkel and Shota Yasuoka.
And Shuhei Nakamura.
And Shuhei Nakamura, who I didn't mention because he hasn't won a Pro Tour yet.
That's right, yeah.
There's also a number of people in the Hall of Fame. Shuhei Nakamura.
Brian Kibler.
John Finkel. Rob Darty is on into day 2.
And he was playing black-white tokens. Now, I wanted to ask you about that. Sorin, Lord of Innistrad, the Planeswalker out of Dark Ascension, a card that had a ton of hype, and it was one of those cards that we weren't sure whether it was going to find a fit or not, because maybe you play Elspeth if you're playing humans, maybe you play Elspeth if you're playing blue-white, who knows? And what we found was Rob Doherty, a Hall of Famer, someone who brings his own decks.
Smashing people with the deck.
Wasn't he? Did he get to 5-0? Or certainly he was 4-1, 4-0.
I don't believe he was 5-0. I think he ended up 4-1 with the deck. What's really funny about that is it gives you a really good example of how people can sometimes outthink themselves.
Okay.
We did a deck tech with him, and he's explaining to me afterwards, he's like, this was the first deck I built. I looked at Dark Ascension, and I said, man, I want to play with those cards. Gather the Townfolk seems awesome. Lingering Soul seems amazing. Why, that works perfect with Midnight Haunting. Right?
And they've given me this great big Planeswalker.
Here's this Planeswalker. Here are these Vault of the Archangel. Here's this great land. So he really was like, this deck's gonna be awesome. I'm gonna build this deck. So he built it, and they start playing it. He's got a little beach house. By a little beach house, I mean a mansion on the beach that they rented in Hawaii.
Okay, not a hut.
To prepare for this event. No, not a hut. It's an actual mansion on the beach, and it's cheaper than staying in a hotel. That's what's incredible.
That's just foolish.
I mean, they had to put 14 people in there or something like that.
Sure, in the 3-bedroom apartment.
But it apparently wasn't crowded. So he gets this deck, and he's just beating the snot out of everybody with it, right? He's just making short work of everybody. People are like, well, that's obviously a really good deck. People are probably going to play that deck. Let's build some decks that can, deal with that deck. And so they build a deck, and then he's like, wow, you're right. If people are going to do that, then I probably need to put a Loyal Cathar in this deck. Probably need something. Ratchet Bomb's going to really, screw me up here. So let me put he's like, man, this deck stinks. Right? He's like, my deck stinks. I can't beat the field.
And it's that internalized metagame thing,
yeah, and they're
isn't
just going
it?
on, and they're doing this, and they're doing that. And finally, he's like, you know what? And he just sweeps everything off his desk, opens up the drawer, finds that dusty deck from 2 weeks ago or a week ago, puts it in. He's like, that's what I'm playing. I'm playing that deck.
And he's quite good. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
This is a man who has seen his way to a winner's circle many times over his long career.
So we. On day 1, we got a little bit of the metagame breakdown. Bill Stark, goes into the tank, hard at work beginning of the day, going through all the deck lists and looking at what people play. White Weenie, the deck that Rob Darty ended up playing, which is essentially what it is.
Yeah.
The most played archetype.
Okay, but lots of variations
Lots
within.
of variations.
White weenie is no longer single white, double white, triple white kind of thing. It's
No. It tends to mean, though, Champion of the Parish,
Yep.
Lingering Souls, Gather the Town Folk,
Okay.
and then, like, Augmentation and Auras, you know.
All right.
25% of the field went that route.
Right.
20% of the field went with Delver, which is what we thought would be the most played archetype
It's
in
a
the room.
1/1, but it's really a 3/2 flyer.
And to be fair, if you break the white weenie decks out, so the green-white humans decks, the black-white tokens deck, the mono-white weenie deck,
The blue-white
right,
illusion.
the blue-white no Delver deck.
Yeah.
Right, if you break those all out, then Delver is the most played archetype on day one at
Okay.
20%.
Fine.
The next most played archetype is Wolf Run decks, Wolf Run Ramp. Not just a deck that's playing Kessig Wolf Run. There were a couple of other decks. There were some red-green beatdown decks
Yeah.
that were playing it, but they don't get lumped into this category.
Okay.
This is basically a deck that is fetching Kessig Wolf Run with Primeval Titan.
Right.
Possibly fetching Primeval Titan with Green Sun Zenith.
Yep.
Right? That is the definition of what this deck is. 17% of the field went the Primeval Titan route.
And that's 1 in 6. So 1
Yeah.
in 5 with Delver, 1 in 6.
And 1 in 4
with
were
the-
White Weenie.
Yep.
So that's probably what you faced on day one. If you know,
Sure.
then there's a huge drop off.
A proper shelf.
Yeah, 17% for Wolf Run, 6% for Esper Control, blue, white, black control. You know, these are decks that are drawing a lot of cards and Unburial Writing a Sun Titan into a Phantasmal Image into 6%.
Wow. That's 1 in 17.
Right, and also right around there is Tempered Steel at 5%.
So some people
Those were
just
the-
went, I'm going to try and aggro you out
Yeah,
with
those were the
Thumbstick.
most played archetypes.
Okay.
Interestingly, one of the things we were wondering about is, will anyone play Red Deck Wins?
Yeah.
Right, I know there's a Red Deck Wins deck that advanced to day 2. I
Ooh.
do know that one has
Okay.
made it. I don't want to necessarily give anything away, but only 3 people in the entire tournament
Sleeved up red.
out of
Straight
450,
446.
446, 3 of them decided that they were going to, pray to the Shrine of Burning Rage.
I talked to David Kaplan. I said, are you my red
Yeah,
deck wins
I
guy?
had the same conversation
Yeah,
with
he's
him.
like,
He's like, no, are you
terrible.
crazy?
It's terrible.
Can't win.
Can't possibly do that. So, yeah, we don't think red is
and
terribly
again, go
exciting.
back here, right? You look at 25% this, 20% this, even another 5% Tempered Steel. That's 45, 50, a full 50% of the field that probably has access to timely reinforcements.
Yes.
Right, and that's not including the 17% Wolf Run decks that could easily splash white.
Red
and
decks
the,
don't like timely reinforcements.
Yeah, and the blue, white,
it's fair
black
to say.
decks that could do it, so.
As you can tell, there's quite a lot to talk about. He's been at it for 9 hours. He's still got some more to come. Tomorrow, we will be back with 3 more rounds of draft action, and then down the stretch we come. First time we've ever been able to bring you this. Rounds 12 to 16. Every round, it's the feature matches that matter.
I mean, really, the most harrowing day in Magic.
See, you call it harrowing, I call it exciting. The penultimate round of Swiss.
For us, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I was talking about the players who are coming down the stretch. I was talking about Ralph Levy versus Richard Bland in the last round of Worlds.
In Pursuit.
I was talking about Eric Froelich versus Tom Martell in Paris.
Okay.
Right?
Harrowing. I give you that.
Harrowing.
A harrowing
People,
journey.
Playing for, obviously they're playing for money, and obviously they're playing for pro points. But you know what? These guys are also playing for their legacies, right? And you realize that, I was talking to Jeremy Neiman about his amazing year he had last year.
Absolutely.
Right? Just this hella year, right? Where he just goes top 16 twice. And one of them is a 9th place finish, a virtual top 8.
Wins his home Grand Prix.
Wins a Grand Prix, makes, cashes the other 2 Pro Tours he plays in pretty solid fashion. And he's just like, yeah, he didn't top 8.
Yeah.
Right? He's like, people remember the top 8s. They remember the wins. They remember the top 8s.
And also, if you've been with us from the start, just think of the players. You've gone through 8 rounds. You've watched it all with us. They do it all again. And after 15, over 2 days. Then they play the one that counts.
Right.
And that's why it's so pulsating. If you've never seen live happening the last couple of rounds of Swiss of a Pro Tour, buckle up.
Believe me, all 3 of these matches that are in the feature match area,
They're going to be amazing.
they're going to be winning-ins.
We're going to see you there, we hope. Thanks for being with us around the world, wherever you've been. Halfway point, Samuele Estratti tops the pile. Will he still be there Sunday? You can watch it all unfold tomorrow. For the Pro Tour historian Brian David-Marshall, I'm your host, Richard Hagon, saying bye.